Okay, so we're looking at Matthew 21, and after reading through this chapter, you get the feeling that Jesus knew that his ministry was coming to an end, and so he pushed to teach his disciples all he could. He had already told them in chapter 20 of his impending death in Jerusalem. And as they came near, Jesus sending his disciples to the neighboring village, there you will see an ass and a colt, loose them and bring them to me. And if any man question thee, tell them the Lord had need of them. The disciples did as they were told. They brought them to him, and they took off their clothes and put on the ass and sat him on it. We are told that great multitude followed. Some spread their garments in the way, others broke palm branches and spread in front of him and cried, Hosanna to the Son of David. Jesus' entry into Jerusalem was a triumphant and very public entry into Jerusalem, even though he knew that the religious leaders would arrest him and condemn him to death. Jesus went into Jerusalem in humility, yet with dignity. Instead of coming on a horse as conquering general, he came as a colt, as was customary for royalty. He came to Jerusalem as the Prince of Peace. They cried, Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest. Jesus went into the temple, and when he saw that they were selling and buying stuff in the temple, he drove them out. He overturned tables of the money changers and the seat of those who sold dove. He said to them, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you have made it into dens of thieves. Isaiah 56:7 says, it is written, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all nations. So Jesus was upset at what the people were doing in the temple. The buying and selling made it impossible for those who wanted to pray to do so. After he drove them out the money changers, the blind and the lame made their way to him, and he healed all of them. But when the chief priests and scribes saw the wonderful things he did, and the children crying out in the temple and saying, Hosanna to the Son of David, they were upset and said to him, do you hear what they are saying? And he answered them and said, have you never read that out of the mouth of babe and nursing infant, you have perfected praise? And he left them and went out of the city. In the morning when Jesus awoke, he was very hungry, and so he came to a fig tree, and it was empty, only leaves on the tree. And he said to it, let no fruit grow on you ever again. It seems a very harsh thing to say, but Jesus said it, let no fruits grow on you ever again. And we are told that the tree withered immediately. This performs a rare destructive, I would say, a rare destructive miracle that Jesus ever did. His curse made the tree withered away. The disciples came and asked him how the fig tree had withered away so quickly, to which Jesus told them that they too could do such things. He said, if you had faith and did not doubt, in fact, they could even say to the mountain, be moved, and the mountain would be removed to the midst of the sea, and it would be done. He assured them that everything they asked in prayer, believing, they would receive. Nothing is too big. Nothing is too big for true faith to obtain. As we have prayed this morning, nothing is too big for true faith to obtain. But that faith must be a promise to lean on. Jesus, in verse 23 to 27, Jesus is questioned by the Jewish leaders as he comes back to the temple. They ask him, by what authority do you do all these things? Jesus replied by asking them a question that if they could answer, then he would answer them. He asked them where the baptism of John was from. Was it from heaven or was it from man? The leaders were confused because if they said it was from heaven, then Jesus would ask them why they did not believe him. If they said it was from man, then they risked the wrath of the people because the people believed that John was a prophet. So what they did, they tried to play it safe and they said that they did not know. Jesus said unto them, neither do I tell you by what authority I do these things. Jesus didn't show much patience with those who ignorantly questioned him and hoped to trap him with his own words. Jesus never fell into their traps. As we go a little bit further in the chapter, we read about the parable of the two sons. The parable tells of a man who had two sons. He asked the first one to go into his vineyard and work. The son refused, but later regretted and went and worked. The man then went to the second son and asked him the same thing. The son said that he would go, but then decided not to. He didn't go at all. Jesus asked the question, which one of them has done the Father's will? Of course, the reply was the first. The point of the parable is clear. What matters is living for God, not saying the right words. The religious leaders were good at talking religious talk. Their stubborn and repentant heart show that a repentant sinner would enter the kingdom much before them. So just talking about Jesus is not good enough. We got to live the word and walk the word. There's another parable that just running on, the parable that tell about the landowner who leases vineyards to the workers, and when it was time came for harvest, he sent his servants to those leasing land in order to receive the fruit. But the leasing the land beat the servant. They beat him. They kill one and stone another. Then the landowner said to himself, they will respect my son. So finally, he sent his son, as he felt they would respect him for what For respect him, but not so. The leaders decide to kill him and take his inheritance. The question was asked, what would the owner do to those leasers? He would destroy them, those miserable men that lease his vineyards to others, and would give him the fruit of the harvest. So he'll get rid of them, and he'll, the Bible said they will be destroyed and they should be gnashing of teeth and so on, and then he'll give it to somebody else. So the leaders of Israel were so corrupt that God was transferring leadership to others, especially to the apostles, and to them, and then to the church they would lead. At the end of the chapter, Jesus warns religious leaders that if they continue to reject God and his Messiah, the God would pass on leadership of his work on earth to us. The choice of the leaders is the same choice that we have today. We can be broken in humble surrender before God, or completely be broken in judgment. So we have a choice to make. Even now, we have to make the choice either to be true servants of God, or to play the fool, and then it wouldn't be worth it, because you would lose our soul salvation. So the onus is on us as we read to pick or to learn the lesson in this chapter. So without further ado, I would just like to open it up for a few minutes for discussion. Anyone want to say anything in terms of this chapter? Anyone?
Can I just say something, Patrick? The major story here seems to be Jesus's triumphant entry into Jerusalem. Mm-hmm. Now, so far Matthew has shown Jesus fulfilling so many prophecies. From his miraculous birth given in Isaiah 4:17 to John the Baptist in Malachi 3:1. To Peter, James, and John seeing his transfiguration on the Mount back in Matthew 16:28. And now here he is fulfilling several of Old Testament prophecies that stretch back to Isaiah, and we found, Zechariah 9:9, and then several other chapters given or prophesying about this time. Now, one of the problems that Jesus had was the scribes and Pharisees back in Matthew 12:28. They'd asked for a sign. And I'm thinking, well, they would have known about the prophecies, going back some several hundred years before Jesus was even thought about. And yet they asked for a sign. And I would have thought, given that he enters Jerusalem according to the prophecy of Malachi, they would have thought, well, we don't need no more signs. Here we are. Here this man is fulfilling everything. And in fact, there was something I read where this is one of the few, in fact, the only occasion that we seem to have where God gave the specific time and day when Jesus would be presented to Jerusalem, to the Jewish nation. And it's found in, I'd written it down somewhere because it's pretty heavy, but it just makes me think that, are we doing something similar? We are being given signs at the time of the end is coming. And when coronavirus hit us, a lot of us got worried, you know what I mean? But we thought, well, we need another sign, man. You know, the Sabbath, the Sunday law hasn't been passed, or this law hasn't been passed. So, yeah, he's coming, but he's not quite ready yet. So we've continued to, in the way that we were doing previously, although we may have tightened up a little, and I'm guilty of this as well, tightened up a little of my spirituality. But because I know other things are outstanding, I've kind of laxed a wee bit. And I'm wondering, is there a lesson here for us in the way the Jews, and especially the religious leaders and the political leaders, continued on their quest to destroy him, and what we are doing now in light of you know, the end of time and the coronavirus and what we know should you know, is foretelling when Jesus is coming? Is there a comparison here? Is there a lesson that we need to learn?
Yes, I think so. As far as I'm concerned, that in terms of the coronavirus and the signs that we might be looking forward to come, I think the onus is on all of us to live as if today were our last day, because if you die, you know, you're looking for other sides, but if you die, say because this hasn't come through yet or that hasn't come to, it's not quite ready. But when you die, your probation is finished. So the onus is on us to live each day as if it was our last. So whenever time we die, or whenever time our time come, we're ready to meet our master.
Mm-mm. And can I, before someone says, can I just say, you know, the two parables that are given, the one of the fig tree and the two sons. Now, the fig tree one, following on from what you just said, as you were reading it, I was thinking, again, does it point to some of us, right? Where, you know, we're told in 2 Timothy 3:5, you know, but having the appearance of godliness, and God warns, you know, stay away from them. And then what he did, he cursed the poor fig. Well, it's not poor fig trees. He was out of season, so he probably had no fruit. But God cursed him and killed him. You know, and he withered and died. And again, is there a lesson there for us? Having the appearance of godliness, but be careful. He's going to curse us if we don't come to the fruits.
And I think just to add to what's been said as well, you know, funny enough, we're speaking about this in our prayers this morning, Pastor, and with Elder Rene. I think this was something that Pastor echoed actually. You know, I think we need to be very mindful that we need to live our lives as if today is the last day. And I think when we do that, a lot of the troubles we go through, a lot of the stresses, if I can call them unnecessary stresses that we'll go through, a lot of those would not be there, because if we live like today is the last day, guess what? We'll put everything in place. We'll make sure that our finances, whatever, we'll make sure that our lives are in place. So just as, you know, what's been said, you know, I think from what I can get here, and I think this is, you know, this is divine, you know, whereby, you know, God is telling us, as Adventists, we hear the word, we know the word, we know what we ought to do. We need to start living our lives like, we need to put it in practice, not just read it, not just, you know. And I'm glad this morning that Elder Patrick, you know, God inspired you to pray for Sister Jenny, pray for those that are, you know, and you know, this is what God is telling us. I think more than ever before, we get into a time whereby, you know, the only thing that will save us is going on our knees and praying to God and petitioning the throne of grace. And when we do that, when we realize that, you know what, the weapon we have, which the devil is fighting, saying that, you know, you don't need that, let's try. And some of us have gone to schools, we have PhDs, we have all of those. And we're trying to, we try to use those to kind of rationalize, how do we do that? How do we do this? But meanwhile, all we need to do is go to God in prayer. So I think we as Adventists, we need to live our lives. We need to live our lives like today our lives depend. Today is the day that God has said, you know what, if you go to sleep, there's no assurance that we're waking up tomorrow. Thank you.